The Dallas Cowboys are on the verge of an implosion. I'm Harrison Graham. Welcome into Verts, and on today's show, we're going to get to why I think the Cowboys are about to implode. But first, I want to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel. We publish daily NFL and college football content on this channel. We will have a Thursday night football reaction show tonight. Little Ravens-Bengals should be a good one in the AFC North, so be sure to join us for that. Continuing to grow this show. Let's get to 5,000 subs ASAP. All right, to me, having watched this team for a number of years of my life growing up in the DFW area, I think the Cowboys are very close to imploding, and I think this thing is going to fall apart very, very quickly. And there's a lot of reasons that I'll get to. They're 3-5. They're nowhere close in their division right now, as Washington is 7-2, Philadelphia is 6-2. I think the first thing that has to be discussed is, even though he's not playing as well this year as he did last year, Dak Prescott going to IR kind of ends their season, if we're being completely honest. He's got a hip injury, and the more the week has gone on, the worse it sounds. It sounds like, not a hip, a hamstring injury. Sounds like some of the hamstring tore off the bone, which sounds A, very painful, and B, very serious. I read somewhere that if he has surgery, he could be back maybe in 6 or 7 weeks, but if he lets it heal on its own, it could take 8 to 10 weeks. I think there's a real chance they just shut him down. I mean, we know he's missing at least 4 games as he's going to injured reserve, and it's just, this thing has been in the making for the months. This season has been going downhill ever since offseason expectations were set and offseason promises were set, and quite frankly, none of that happened. And look, let's just look at the rest of their schedule. They're already 3-5. Their defense already sucks. I mean, it's pretty bad when Dak Prescott's caught on the sideline by the game cameras mouthing, "We fucking suck." I mean, that is a disaster. And quite frankly, it's kind of funny because they do suck, and he knows it. And he knows their season's over, and without him, they're really, truly done. But think about what they got coming up here. Philadelphia and Houston at home, 2 tough games. At Washington, very difficult. Giants at home, a game they should win, but who knows with Cooper Rush. Bengals at home, they're playing better. At Carolina, probably a game they'll win, but Bucks at home, at Philly versus Washington. I mean, they're 3-5 right now. Let's say they beat the Giants and the Panthers. That gets you to 5. None of those other games are games that they are like expected to win. I mean, this feels like a 6-win football team, maybe 7. And with Cooper Rush taking over, I know he went 5-1 a few years ago when Dak missed some time with a leg injury, but is he saving the season? The difference now is that when Rush was doing that, he was just managing the game. Don't make mistakes. Well, if you've watched Dallas this year, they have to win shootouts because Mike Zimmer is a completely cooked product as a defensive coordinator. He's terrible. Watch them play defense. They don't tackle. They don't cover. They don't rush the passer. They don't do anything well, and I think that's led to Dak forcing the issue a little bit, and his interceptions are up this year. And look, all of this to me is down to one man and one man only, and that is Jerry Jones. When Jerry Jones set the expectations, regardless of what he meant, regardless of what he truly was shooting for, when he told the world that he was going all in this year, that the Cowboys would be all in, and then he does nothing in free agency. He doesn't have a draft that makes a whole lot of sense to help them this year. This is kind of what you get. You get a lame duck coach who is coaching out the final year of his contract, and Mike McCarthy. I think we know what's going to happen there. We'll talk about that in a second. Dak Prescott, who you have no choice but to pay because the way you structured his deal last time and the way you waited till the last second, he had you over a barrel, so you had to pay him. You paid CeeDee Lamb big money, and then you come out a few weeks into the season, have this brutal interview on local radio where you basically threaten to get those guys at the Fan fired. It's just a train wreck. And Jerry Jones can't help himself. He always has to be in the spotlight. And once again, he was in the spotlight when he completely overpays for Jonathan Mingo at the deadline. It was kind of one of those moves like, see, I told y'all we were going to make a move. Yeah, you massively overpaid for a guy who's done nothing in a year and a half. The way you've built this team is just a joke, and you cannot let a coach out the final year of his contract. It is borderline unprecedented in the NFL. You either commit to him and give him an extension, or you fire him after that collapse against Green Bay last year. You can't do what you did and take a half measure. And let's face it, too, they have completely missed Dan Quinn. Like there's no doubt about it. They have missed Dan Quinn in his defense. And everybody after the playoff game was like, yeah, let Quinn go. They'll be fine. Defense isn't the same anyway. Really? He's got a average at best talented defense in Washington playing really well. They're 7-2 as a team. They're humming with a rookie quarterback, and you're pissing down your leg every week, and Mike Zimmer looks like he's 10 years over the hill as your defensive coordinator. And yes, Dak hasn't played as well this year, but to be fair, that offensive line's been spotty, and also you've got CeeDee Lamb and a bunch of guys who just aren't that good at receiver. Brandon Cooks is over the hill. Jalen Tolbert's fine. You go get Mingo thinking that's going to be some big-time move. Sure, he'll be under contract for a couple more years. Maybe it's a bit of a long-term play, but let's be honest. You look at this thing, how this is played out, it's kind of predictable to see this thing fall apart. Maybe we didn't see it to the degree that this was coming, but when you don't improve in any area on the field or coaching-wise after you got bulldozed by a 7 seed in the NFC, what did you expect to happen the next year? To improve? That was just not a realistic scenario. So now we all know how this ends. We know what the result of this situation is. And that is that Jerry Jones is going to fire Mike McCarthy because you can't do anything about Dak. You just paid him. And you're going to enter the offseason with major question marks. Who's the next head coach going to be? Are you going to pay Micah Parsons? Because if not, he's probably going to hold out. Do you trade him? Do you pay him? What do you do there? How do you add more talent on this football team? What kind of coach do you attract? Do you go the Belichick route? Do you try and get a young up-and-comer like Ben Johnson, who Adam Schefter said today is going to be very selective with where he goes? Does he want the circus of Dallas? Is Mike Vrabel the answer? And even if you get the coach right, do you feel like you can build a football team well enough? Does that coach trust you to make the investments you need to make to build up the football team? I get it. When you pay your quarterback top dollar and have a couple other big contracts, you got to pick and choose. But for him to continue to double, triple, quadruple down on the idea he couldn't sign Derrick Henry, a guy who has a cap hit of less than $6 million, that's just one of two things. One, just a complete pathological liar, which is very much on the table. Or two, just a simple lack of understanding how to how the salary cap works. A player worth less than $6 million against your cap, every team in the NFL can make that work. There's no team where that can't fit in. And so for Dallas to just bring back Zeke, who you had to leave at home last week because he's having maturity issues despite being, 30, 31 now? It's just a joke. It's an embarrassment. And despite 3 straight 12-win seasons, and despite this team, yes, being pretty good as a regular season team over the years, they've done nothing for people my age and younger in our lifetimes. I'm 31 years old. I've never seen this team consciously make the NFC Championship. I was like 3 or 4 the last time they did. And it's just, America's team. Really? They're America's laughingstock. And it starts with the owner. The owner is full of himself. He thinks he has all the answers, and he doesn't. He doesn't. He won't hire a GM. Will McClay's his personnel guy, but Jerry makes the final decisions. And at the end of the day, as long as he's there, as long as he's kicking, and as long as he's making the final calls, this is kind of what you get. You have a glass ceiling on how far you can get to, and you're not going to be able to kick through. So I'll be fascinated to see what happens this offseason, and the only thing I feel confident in is that McCarthy will not be back. He will not be back. And that leads me to this question as we get out of here. Who do you guys think will be the Cowboys head coach in 2025? If you had to predict one guy, who would it be? I would say Mike Vrabel would be my top guess. I'll throw a wild card out there. I could see Jerry trying to be smartest guy in the room. Cliff Kingsbury doing well with Jaden Daniels, Texas guy. Wouldn't shock me. Not sure I'd go that route, but it wouldn't shock me whatsoever. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of For Verts. Again, we'll be back tonight for Thursday Night Football. Don't forget to subscribe. Trying to get to 5,000 subs here on this channel. More NFL and college football content coming your way. Until then, we'll see you next time.